Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. And just a quick reminder to go ahead and click that subscribe button if you enjoy my videos and want to see them on your feed every day. Now let's get started with today's first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Miss Molly 314. Stepmom 45 female acts like I'm 19 female the other woman. A little background. I am 19 years old and I am away from home attending college. I'm really close with my dad and two younger sisters. My parents are divorced and my dad remarried my stepmom about 7 years ago. Anyway, I don't know what it is, but my stepmom has never made an effort to get to know me. It might have something to do with the fact that when my dad was still married to my mom, he cheated on her with now stepmom. Long story short, I found out and sent stepmom a really mean email. But it was a mean email coming from an immature 8-year-old who didn't understand the complexity of the situation. But I feel like it would be really unfair to write me off because of something I did when I was 8. Continuing on. Due to my biological mother's mental health issues, I was not a part of my dad's life until I was 15, when I was reunited with him. I was genuinely excited to meet his wife and my half-brother. I was hoping she could be a mother figure or even just my friend. I've tried really hard to make this happen too. I buy and make her gifts during the holidays, I try to get her to do stuff with me, and I have tried to tell her directly that I want a relationship, but she still does not like me. She barely speaks to me. Every time I see her, she acts like everyone wants to get rid of her despite everyone reassuring her that we want her around. She will often just leave the house with my brother whenever I am around. I think to make my dad feel bad about her perceived victimization. She will also say passive-aggressive things that imply she is a perpetual victim. For example, I was visiting my dad a couple of weeks ago on a long weekend. She was planning on leaving to go to her parents' house, so I asked her if she was going to stay for an event. She responded by saying she was going to leave the next day, but since I wanted her to go, she would leave immediately. We all begged her to stay, but she left anyway. My biggest problem with her is that when my dad spends time with me, she acts like he is having an affair. She will call him and say things like, "Rowan, half bro, and I are learning we can have fun without you, so just stay with OP." Or, "I think you should go to Mexico with just OP and her sisters instead of all of us as we planned." She gets so jealous and I just don't understand. I'm his daughter, not a stripper. It's gotten to the point where I don't feel welcome at my dad's house. My dad is a major pacifist and he's aware there is an issue, but he doesn't really confront her about it. Knowing he is not much help, how should I resolve my issues with my stepmom? Should I be direct and tell her she's acting like a baby, or should I just wait until her marriage falls apart? Hint, their relationship is having serious issues because of all of this and money issues. OP, unfortunately, in my opinion, there's nothing you could do to resolve your stepmom being an idiot. I'm sure this has nothing to do with that letter you sent at 8 years old. I'm guessing it's because she just doesn't want you or your sisters in your dad's picture at all. This is a person that got upgraded from side piece to ball and chain because, let's face it, she's not really acting like a wife or a partner, at least not based on my definition of one, and has done anything in her power to manipulate and control your dad away from all of you. These messages, those are straight up emotional manipulation. And her constant victimization is all to put your dad in a strain where he just has to choose between his kids, you and your sisters, and her and his new kid, who I have to say I feel really sorry for. Rowan is just a kid and his crazy mom is actually helping him lose his siblings. So yeah, again OP, I don't think there's anything you can do to get on her good side, no matter how many gifts you make or buy her, or how many times you tell her that you want a relationship with her. She does not want one with you. And I don't think she ever will. Your existence is a direct competition to her interests, so she's gonna do everything she can to get rid of you and your sisters. And from the sounds of it, your dad is the spineless kind of person who would actually let her do it. So as the Magic 8 Ball would say, outlook not so good. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How would you deal with it? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Punder Pocket says, I am so sorry you are going through this. Seeing your parents' divorce sucks so much, and having to deal with it when you were 8 years old wasn't fair to you. You need to speak with your dad about the extent of how it has affected you. Tell him you need him to act like a father and intervene. This is such an unhealthy dynamic to be a part of, and he has to know it. I would recommend stop reaching out to your stepmother. Don't be mean, but just don't engage with her. You need to distance yourself from her, or else you'll set yourself up to be hurt more. Your father needs to stand up for you. End of story. Your stepmother is so immature, it's unbelievable. And OP responds, I have let him know how much it has hurt me and that I don't feel welcome in his house. He has talked to her in the past and she gets better for a little bit and then it's back to business as usual. Maybe I need to suggest he get a little more serious about the situation and not just talk to her. In the meantime, I'm going to follow your advice and just not interact with her. Pseudonymously says, I'm not very impressed by your dad. He somehow let you, as an 8-year-old, find out some pretty upsetting details about your parents' marriage, unless that came from your mom, and now he's picked a woman who doesn't value your place in your own family, and he's not standing up to defend it. And OP responds, yeah, sometimes he is not very smart. He has a very good heart and he is extremely loving, but he's really absent-minded and non-confrontational. Hence, he let me play games on the same phone that he texted his then mistress. I think some of it is because he has the worst case of ADD I have ever seen. Thankfully, he's finally getting medicated for it. Deleted says, it could be that feels guilty for her part in the affair, so she's kind of placing the blame on you in a sense. She acts the way she does because she feels like she needs to defend her place in the family. That's what I feel from the situation anyway. And if they're also having relationship issues, it probably doesn't help at all. I would confront her, maybe bring up that you were only 8 and you don't hate or blame her for anything. I wonder if you have a full-on discussion with her if her attitude will change at all. Stand up for yourself though, it's not your fault she made the decision she's made. And OP responds, I think you are right about her wanting to defend her place in the family. I have actually tried to talk to her about how I wanted her in my life and how the divorce is in the past as far as I am concerned. It made her uncomfortable, but I have no idea why. Maybe she just has such low self-esteem that she didn't believe me? Additional information from OP's comments. I agree that my dad not standing up for me is not very loving. He's great in every other aspect, but it's not cool for him to just do nothing about this and hope it gets better. I also think that everyone should know where his almost pathological avoidance of conflict comes from. When I said my mom is mentally ill, I wasn't kidding. She has Munchausen's syndrome and Munchausen's syndrome by proxy. She's also extremely emotionally abusive and has put my sisters and me in some very dangerous situations. When my dad was married to her, he figured out that if he just shut up and didn't engage in conflict with her, things would be okay. Spoiler alert, it didn't work, but that's how he dealt with the fact that his wife was abusing him. I think he has carried that tactic over into his current relationship because, after all, my mom and stepmom are unfortunately similar. I'm not defending his unwillingness to stand up for himself and his family because it is really crappy, but I think my explaining his background makes the whole situation easier to understand. Having said that, I certainly don't think my dad did the right thing by cheating on her, but I understand why he made that mistake. He wanted to escape her, but he also didn't want to lose contact with his daughters. When my parents did get divorced, our mom kept us away from him most of the time. Because she is abusive and vindictive, he was a terrible husband, but a great dad. He still is overall, but he really needs to work on defending me if he wants a relationship. I think she was really enjoying her life with her one son and loving husband. Unfortunately for her, she kind of ignored the fact that my dad had a different life before her. Then, when my dad had to sue for full custody of my sisters and me, she was totally unprepared. Still, my dad makes me sad. I've told him that he should just let her go when she threatens to leave, but I think he's afraid that if he does that, she will divorce him. I'd probably never tell him this, but I think he would be happier if he did get a divorce. I think the initial drama surrounding the affair might be what attracted Stepmom. She could be trying to create drama because that is the kind of person she is. Either way, I've told my dad that he has to confront his wife or I can't spend time with him. I suggested family therapy. He was extremely apologetic and said that he wanted me in his life. He's going to suggest therapy and we'll see where it goes from there. Oh, and by the way, I love my half-brother very, very much. He's only 5, so it's pretty easy to get along with him. He's a sweet kid and he is already so much like me. But eventually, the tension between his mom and me is going to affect our relationship. In a way, it already has. I'll be playing with my little bro, having a good time, and then out of nowhere, my stepmom will literally take him away from me. It sucks, and I don't get to see him much at all. Alright, well the community read the situation pretty okay and gave some advice to OP that I think it's working out. But the biggest piece was OP's additional information. The whole thing with her mom and how she abused her dad and the reaction that the dad had and the type of person that is the new stepmom and all of that just puts a lot of things into perspective. And still considering what he went through with OP's mom, I think he should still stand up for OP and not let the stepmom do what she's doing. But I kinda guess he's not gonna do that. In any case, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. But again, a quick reminder that if you like this video so far, please go ahead and click that like button. Now, let's get on with that update. It's been 2 years since my original post, and I can safely say that my family is irreparably fractured. My relationship with my dad is never going to be the same. In fact, there may not even be a relationship. My younger half-brother, now 7, has been largely poisoned against me by his mom. My sister, 19, mostly stays away from my dad's home because it is so uncomfortable. My other sister, 14, feels the need to create even more drama so that she can get a scrap of attention. It has gotten so unbearable that I don't even feel sane anymore. When I wrote my last post, I thought there was a solution to my stepmom's behavior. I had many calm discussions with my dad where we talked about how damaging stepmom's behavior is. Over time, those discussions have gotten more heated and mean. We had gone over it and over it and over it to the point that I felt like a broken record. Every time we talked about the issue, he would acknowledge that her behavior was terrible, not in those words because he couldn't say anything bad about her, and tell me that he didn't know why she is like this. Because she sucks, that's why. I'd ask him over and over again why she never liked me. Why did she never try to get to know me? Why is she so cold? What the hell did I do to deserve this? Are the questions I asked him pretty much every time I saw him. He never had an answer. All he could say in her defense was that he could see both sides, even though the issue started when I was an effing kid and did absolutely nothing, and that she was so stressed because she had to clean up and sometimes no one would eat her dinner. I even tried confronting the source of the problem a few times, but it never helped. It probably made things worse. She would just deny any responsibility for her actions and act like I was absolutely insane. It always devolved into shouting because I would get unimaginably frustrated that no one cared or recognized the borderline abuse. And the terrible part is there was nothing that I could really confront her about. There isn't one big thing that she's done. Just 7 years of acting like I am not my father's daughter and like she was some sort of victim. It got much worse when I had to move back home about 6 months ago because of my financial situation. Also, note that I am not freeloading. I have a full-time job. I pay my own car bill. I rarely eat their food due to stress-induced appetite loss. I buy all my own clothes, pay for everything related to my dog, and until it got bad, I paid rent in the form of using my lunch break to drive my sister home from school, 10-ish miles away from home. And I swear, when I moved in, I tried so hard to make things better. I tried so effing hard to be her friend, but she just hid away in her room for the majority of the past 6 months, avoiding me. There were some times when it was okay, we'd have friendly conversations, but it never lasted more than a few weeks. I'd either do something unknown to upset her, or she would do something that upset me. 7 years of tension would just bubble over anytime anything happened. So, 3 months ago, I stopped trying with her. I realized no matter what, she would always hate me. There is no relationship to be had with my stepmom ever. And it made me so angry that my dad didn't care how much I was hurting. He didn't care that the situation made me feel like I was back in that house with my abusive mom. 13 years old and utterly powerless. So not only did I stop trying, I started being kind of mean. Every time she said something passive aggressive, I'd rudely call her out. Not like it mattered anyway, since she rarely talked to me, but I stopped talking to her. I made sure to leave as much of my stuff in the way as possible. I stopped doing anything to help my stepmom and dad during my work hours. I rarely ate her dinners, stuff like that. I'm not necessarily proud of my behavior, but I'm not ashamed either. I hate being mean, and it actually doesn't make me feel any better, but I also refuse to keep ignoring how she treats me. I just wanted something to be different, you know? I didn't care if it made things worse because then maybe someone would finally help me. No one did. My dad and I began to grow apart, and now I have a hard time seeing how he can love me and still let this go on for years. And last night, he let it slip that my stepmom was trying to manipulate him into kicking me out. She evidently told him she would move out of her own effing house just to get away from me. It's the most manipulative thing she's ever done. And it absolutely broke my heart to effing hear that 1, someone hates me that much, and 2, that my own father didn't think that was an unacceptable thing to say. Yes, for the past 3 months, I have not been nice, but I have not been evil. I have certainly not done anything she herself hasn't done for years. There is nothing wrong with me, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. I have certainly done nothing to deserve her, making my dad choose between his daughter and his wife. The conversation ended with me reminding him that under state law, he can't kick me out unless he wants to go through eviction proceedings. I never wanted to come to that. I only mentioned it because I have a dog that I am responsible for, and I will not let her live on the streets. And that's where we left it. The past few weeks have made me realize that he will never stand up for me. He will never admit that there is nothing that made his wife hate me other than her own crazy. He will never admit that she's 100% started this situation out of jealousy or something else when I was a kid. He will never admit it's not my fault. Except for the escalation that happened when I moved in, something I freely admit I 100% had a big part in. He will never leave her, even though in desperation I have asked him how he could love someone who hated his daughter so much. He won't even admit that my mother abused me for 10 plus years, even though the state literally took his children away from her. And the investigative report done by the CPS was the most scathing one-sided report that a judge had ever seen. He will never love me enough to protect me, and it's devastating. Thank you for reading this very long update. I am about 90% sure I have a place lined up to move within the next week. I will be leaving this house and never coming back unless their marriage ends. I still love my dad, but I am so disappointed in him. I am not cutting contact out of anger. I am cutting contact because it is too painful to have my dad prove to me every single day that he doesn't care how bad anyone treats me. Well, OP, it's definitely not a happy update, but now you know the truth about your dad. You know that he's spineless and he will not stand up for you, so you're doing what's right. You're taking care of yourself, you're moving out, and you're going no contact until the situation changes, hopefully. I am really sorry that life dealt you a couple of parents to just basically each suck in their own way. And the only silver lining I can take from this is that apparently you understand how crappy they were, and it's not the kind of person you're going to be. So on that note, OP, here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing. And now, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely need a mood booster post. So let's finish the video with that. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user DazzlingFerret3985. Housemates tell me to watch TV in my room. No problem. During my first year of university, I shared a house with one other girl and 3 boys. The other girl kept to herself mainly. I was the only one who had a job and therefore who really bought anything with me other than clothes and a laptop. I decided to be nice and put my TV, quite a decent sized one I had saved up for a while, in the front room so everybody could watch it, as I could always just use my laptop when I was in my bedroom. One of the boys brought a PlayStation with him and connected it to the TV, which I had absolutely no problem with. For the first couple of months, everything was fine and they shared using the TV really well. I would generally watch for an hour or two on the days I wasn't working, and they used it most of the other time. After a while, every time I wanted to watch a program, I used to get "There are 3 of us and just 1 of you. Just go and watch it in your bedroom so we can play FIFA." For a lot of programs, I have no problem watching on my laptop, but there are certain things that are really better to watch on the real TV. I did point out politely that the television did belong to me and I only wanted it for an hour. I would also give them plenty of notice when I wanted to watch a program. Eventually, I just had enough and snapped. I came down to watch something after I told them the previous day I wanted to watch it, and they told me to go watch it in my bedroom. So I did exactly that. I unplugged the TV, disconnected their PlayStation, and carried it up to my bedroom. I set it up just in time to watch my program, which I had to turn up extra loud to drown out their moaning and banging on my door. The only annoying thing was the next day, one of them had called the bank of Mommy and Daddy, who apparently agreed with them that I was awful and had ordered a new TV for them. So they only really went without it for a week or so until it arrived. It was a bit smaller too. Well, OP, they told you to go watch it in your room and you did exactly that. And also, the fact that they called the bank of Mommy and Daddy just says a lot about their character and the type of future they might have, so I wouldn't even sweat it, OP. Thanks for sharing! And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.